Do you want to hear a story about how a killer Santa Claus turned a family Christmas party into the deadliest mass shooting in Los Angeles County history? There's a reason everyone hated Uncle Bruce. Joseph and Alice Ortega love Christmas. It's one of the few occasions when all their adult kids and little grandkids can get together. So on Christmas Eve 2008, they invited everyone over to their home in Covina, California. It's a packed guest list. About 25 Ortegas and Ortega in-laws are there. Among them are their oldest sons, James and Charles, and their daughters, Leticia, Alicia, and Sylvia. They play poker and laugh and eat too much junk food. It's amazing. The party's in full swing when the doorbell rings around 11:30. 8-year-old Katrina Yusuf-Polsky runs to answer the door. She loses her mind when she sees Santa standing there with a big present on the other side. It is happening. Santa is at the door. But then Santa pulls out a 9mm pistol and shoots her in the face. So Santa begins indiscriminately shooting around the party. Those who can't escape do so by any means necessary. One aunt jumps out a second-floor window, breaking her ankle. Katrina's mother, Leticia, scoops her up and runs across the street to a neighbor's house. Behind them, they can hear the pop, pop, pop of bullets, and then the house goes up in flames. Back inside, Santa, aka Bruce Pardo, executes his ex-wife Sylvia, her parents, her brothers, their wives, and her sister Alicia. But Bruce's gift wrap package is actually a homemade flamethrower. He uses it to spray 18 gallons of gasoline around the home. He was going to light a flare and set the place ablaze from a safe distance, but a lit fireplace ruined his plans. The gasoline ignites, nearly blowing the home off its foundation. Those still trapped inside burn to death, including Bruce's 17-year-old nephew, Michael. But Bruce's arms suffer third-degree burns. The pants of his Santa suit have melted to his legs. He's covered in blood. He's only halfway through his plan. He flees in a rented blue Dodge, probably passing firefighters on their way to the house. One fire lieutenant describes the scene as apocalyptic. The bodies inside are burnt beyond recognition. A little girl was shot through the cheek. Another teenager has a bullet in her back. Altogether, 13 children lost parents that Christmas Day. The only Ortega sibling to survive the massacre is Leticia. She escaped with her wounded daughter and her husband, and they called 911 from a neighbor's house. Bruce drove 40 miles to his brother's house in Sylmar, a suburb northwest of LA. His arms, neck, and hands were burned. Now, knowing there's no escape, Bruce went to his fail-safe plan. He rigged the Dodge like a bomb. If someone moved the remnants of his Santa suit, it would trip a wire and ignite a flare, setting off all the ammunition he left behind. So then Bruce went inside, he stuck a gun in his mouth, and he pulled the trigger. When his brother came home around 3:10 a.m., he found Bruce dead on the couch with 2 guns by his side. So, how did it come to this? Well, Bruce Pardo's friends remember him as a quirky, nice guy. Not the kind of person you'd think would be voted most likely to end up on the evening news. I mean, he grew up in California, in the San Fernando Valley. He was the son of an engineer, and he took after his book-smart dad. He studied computer science, and he worked as a software engineer at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, outside of Los Angeles. But for a smart guy, he made some sketchy choices. One JPL coworker recalls Bruce hacking into the computer system to learn his colleagues' salaries. Bruce was driven by money. He always wanted more. He got engaged to one of his coworkers in 1988. Then he left her at the altar, drained her bank account, and skipped town. She saw him a few weeks later with fresh tan lines and empty pockets. He'd blown the money in Palm Springs. Well, Bruce had a reputation for partying and chasing women, but in 2001, he finally settled down and had a baby. I want to take you to early January 2001. Bruce is watching TV when, unbeknownst to him, their 13-month-old boy falls in the swimming pool. No telling how long he's actually in there, because when his girlfriend comes home, she finds Bruce clutching the child. He stayed near the boy's bed for weeks, waiting for him to wake up. Now, doctors said his son would never fully recover. He has a severe brain injury. He needs around-the-clock care and expensive medical treatment. So what does Bruce do? He splits. His brain-dead son and girlfriend never see or hear from him again. He meets his next wife-to-be in 2004. Sylvia Ortega is a 40-year-old single mother of 3. Her brother-in-law works with Bruce at JPL. He sets them up, and the rest is history. Though Sylvia was the kind of woman Bruce needed, a down-to-earth lady with a big family. They got married married in 2006 and moved into a 3-bedroom, $500,000 home in Montrose. Their marriage fell apart fast. Sources say they argued about money. Some say Bruce didn't want to have joint bank accounts. Now remember, this is the same guy who drained his fiance's account and fled to Palm Springs. So who's to say Sylvia couldn't do the same to him? Meanwhile, Bruce's mother grew quite fond of Sylvia. She confided in her daughter-in-law about Bruce's brain-damaged son. She told Sylvia that Bruce refused to pay child support. Meanwhile, he had the audacity to keep claiming him as a tax deduction. This wasn't the man she thought she'd married. They separated in 2008. But Bruce owns the house. So Sylvia asks if she can stay until her daughter finishes kindergarten. But Bruce, being Bruce, tosses her belongings into the driveway while she's at her niece's birthday party. It's his way of saying, no, you can't stay. In March 2008, Sylvia files for divorce and moves in with her sister in Glendale. She hires divorce attorney Scott Nord, who's ready to take Bruce for all he's worth. By then, Bruce is working for a defense contractor called ITT Radar Systems. He's an engineer. He's making about $122,000 a year. Meanwhile, Sylvia is making about $30,000 a year as an administrative assistant for a flower company. The income discrepancy plus Sylvia's 3 kids is probably why a judge orders Bruce to pay nearly $1,800 a month in spousal support. But his first check bounces and he never sends the second. Bruce claims that his monthly expenses are nearly $9,000. Between his $2,700 mortgage payment, his car, his boat, his other bills, he's losing about $2,700 a month. Yet somehow he has enough to buy a $1,000 9mm handgun from a gun store in Burbank. But Bruce's money trouble only gets worse. On July 31st, he's fired for billing fraudulent hours. He tries filing for unemployment, but that doesn't work if you get fired. Yet there he is 8 days later, right back at the Burbank gun store with another $1,000 pistol on the counter. Now, under California law, you're only allowed to buy 1 concealable firearm per month. But Bruce came back on September 8th, October 11th, and November 13th, walking out with a new 9mm each time. But when he wasn't buying handguns, Bruce was cooking up his revenge plan. It began at a costume shop owned by his neighbor, Jerry. So Bruce orders a Santa Claus suit, claiming he needs it for a children's party. He wants to really sell the jolly fat man look. So Jerry leaves room for extra stuffing. Now, in reality, Bruce needs that extra room to hide his handguns. The next step is freeing up some cash. So Bruce applies to several jobs in the tech industry, but nobody's hiring. He convinces the judge to suspend his spousal support payments until he can land a stable job. But he knows he's not going to need a job because he's about to kill everybody. But next, Bruce travels to Iowa to visit an old friend. While there, he buys 16 handgun magazines holding 18 rounds each. California only sells 10-round magazines. About a week before Christmas, Bruce and Sylvia finally settle their divorce. Now, Bruce agrees to a one-time $10,000 payment and allows Sylvia to keep her expensive wedding ring. She also gets the dog, an Akita named Saki. In Bruce's mind, Sylvia took everything he had, his money, his family, and now his dog. He'd have his revenge, and he's gonna do it when everyone least expected it. So the Monday before Christmas, Bruce buys a round-trip plane ticket to Moline, Illinois, small city on the Iowa border. His flight is set to leave super early in the morning on Christmas Day. Next, he rents 2 cars, a Dodge and a Toyota. On Christmas Eve, Bruce leaves the Toyota parked near the home of his ex-wife's attorney, Scott Nord. The inside is full of food, water, clothes, a can of gasoline, a laptop and desktop computer, maps of Mexico and the southwestern United States. But why would he have maps of Mexico if he bought a plane ticket to Illinois? Because authorities think that plane ticket is meant as a distraction while he fled south to Mexico. But at some point, Bruce withdraws his last $17,000 and he tapes it to his legs and waist. Later that night, Bruce's neighbor steps outside to smoke a cigarette. He waves to Bruce as he sees him leave his home and he asks, "Where are you going?" And Bruce is like, "A Christmas party." The only odd thing about the encounter was that Bruce left his black Cadillac Escalade and his white Hummer in the driveway. Instead, he drove off in the rented blue Dodge, on his way to ruin as many lives as he could. Well, hours later, police have 2 different situations on their hands. They have the mass murder/arson in Covina and a late-night suicide in Sylmar. When they responded to the Sylmar call, they suspected someone killed Bruce. having yet to connect him to the Covina situation. But as they dug into Bruce's past, they discovered that he was recently divorced, and that's when they learned that his ex-wife was one of the Ortega victims killed on Christmas Eve. So the next puzzle piece falls into place when the autopsy reports come back on the bodies. All the victims were killed with a 9mm handgun, the same kind found on and near Bruce's body. Though the family's bodies were so severely burned, the only way to identify them was through dental records. Finally, the police are able to interview Leticia. Despite the costume, hat, and beard, she knows Bruce is the MFer who massacred her family. So back at his brother's house, police find the booby trap in Bruce's car. Thankfully, they used a bomb-diffusing robot to set it off and nobody else got hurt. But later that day, they learn about the Toyota that Bruce parked near the divorce lawyer's home. They believed Bruce's original plan was to kill the Ortegas, drive to Scott Nord's house, and then kill Scott, switch cars, and flee to Mexico. It was a very doable plan. The whole thing only fell apart because the Ortegas decided to light the fireplace during the party. So during a search of Bruce's home, police find racing fuel, 5 empty boxes of high-powered rounds, and 2 high-powered shotguns. Bruce Pardo is what you'd call a family annihilator. These killers don't just kill their spouses or one of the kids, they wipe out the entire family. Now, most family annihilators are men who feel a profound need for control and or revenge. When they can't provide for their family financially, or when a divorce drives a wedge between them, they snap. Well, Bruce nearly annihilated his ex-wife's entire family on Christmas Eve 2008. His surviving victims, they're still going strong today, despite him. Now, little 8-year-old Katrina recovered from her injuries. As of 2023, she's a senior at Tufts University. When she's not playing softball, she's raising awareness about gun violence in America. Now, Christmas celebrations include a trip to the cemetery. Merry freaking Christmas. Thanks a lot, Uncle Bruce. What a guy.
And that's your recap.
Thanks for hanging out with us today.
If you like getting all the crime in half the time, go ahead and tap that subscribe button and the bell so you never miss a story.
We're here Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays, but don't go away. Catch up on more recaps right here, right now.
Until next time, take care.